Hello and good evening to all our participants. I hope everybody is safe and doing well. My name is Rufiza and I am the Membership and Strategic Partnerships Senior Manager of British Malaysian Chamber of Commerce, Berhad. Welcome to BMCC webinar in collaboration with Invest Penang, titled Penang, a Key Pillar to Malaysia's Trade. Today, we will dig deeper into the Penang current issues regarding investment environment, its challenges and opportunities in becoming an integrated business environment with mature high-tech infrastructure. Penang can be a greater potential as a significant attractor of investment to both domestic and international businesses. Our panel of experts from Smith and Nephew and IHS Markit will certainly leave us with refreshing ideas and perspectives on the impact of the Penang economy and development plan towards 2030 on businesses and livelihoods. To have here with us today, we are honored that we are joined by Dato Seri Choon, the Special Investment Advisor to the Right Honourable Chief Minister of Penang, Malaysia. He is currently sitting as a board member of various state government-linked companies, corporations as well as private companies. As a Director of Invest Penang Berhad, Penang Development Corporation and Penang Hill Corporation, Dr. Seri, or better known as KC, is actively involved in deciding the policy direction of these government-linked corporations for the state of Penang since 2008. Before we begin, just few housekeeping reminder. If you would like to direct any of your questions to our speakers, please key them in the Q&A chat feature at the bottom of your screen. We will attempt to address your question during the Q&A session if time permits. Without further ado, I would like to invite Casey to give his talk. Welcome, Casey. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Rufiza. Good morning, United Kingdom, and good evening, Penang, Malaysia. Welcome everybody to this webinar. And today I have a few slides to share with you about Penang, and it will be broken into three sections. The first section will be about Penang as a location. The second is about Penang investment and trade performance. And the last but not least is about what Penang has to offer to potential investor into the state. You go to the first slide, please. So the overview of Penang. As far as Penang is concerned, the next slide, please. As far as Penang is concerned, it is, if you are familiar with Hong Kong, so Penang is something like Hong Kong. You have the Hong Kong Island, and then of course you have the mainland. That is a new territory in Malaysia. So Penang is an island. You have the island, and then of course we also have a piece of Penang state on the mainland, which is a part of the peninsular Malaysia. So if you look at it, Penang, we have 50 years of industrial experience. Since the 1970s, we have been one of the manufacturing hub in this part of the world, and we actually significantly excel in this semiconductor manufacturing. Then, of course, together with this semiconductor manufacturing, many of these multinational companies find that Penang is not only a location for manufacturing, but it's also a location for them to move these global business services to Penang. So about 10 years ago, these GBS, the global business services of these multinationals, as well as local multinational, local global business services companies has actually mushroomed. As far as infrastructure is concerned, we also have a world-class infrastructure. We have the port, we have the airport, and of course we are also linked by the road all the way down to Singapore in the south and all the way up to Bangkok in the north. And then with this, the Chinese new Silk Road, actually from Bangkok, you can go all the way to Beijing as well, through rail as well as through the road system that has been created. Apart from that, actually Penang is also a good place to be located for not only manufacturing as well as doing business, but it is also a place whereby you can work and live. and Penang is actually a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And at the same time, of course, it is also a very nice place to have a holiday. And we have many accolades being given to Penang. One of them is I like most is it is an island that you must visit before you die. Then, of course, we are also one of the top recipients of this foreign direct investment into Malaysia. So we are very proud of that. So you can see that this is our journey since 1970 to the present. But I would like to stretch that a little bit all the way back to 1786. 1786, that is the later part of the 18th century. That was when the British decided to move out from to extend and as well as to expand their trade with the East from India. So in 1786, actually the East Indian Company they set foot on Penang. They set foot on Penang Island, and they find that it is a strategic place for them to be located to set up a trading post in the Far East. And why it is strategic is because it is at the mouth of one of the busiest strait in the world, waterways in the world, that is the Strait of Malacca. So in 1786, they came to Penang. They set up a trading post, and then they named the place Georgetown. And today, Georgetown is the capital of Penang. And Georgetown, of course, is named after King George III. And Penang Island is known as the Prince of Wales Island. And from there, of course, the British went to Singapore in a later part of the 19th century, and then into Hong Kong, and then, of course, to Australia, and then to New Zealand. So way back to at the later part of 18th century, Penang was already trading with the world. It was an entry port, and it was actually a very important trading post for spices and later part, because the discovery of tin, it was actually one of the world, or rather it was the world biggest exporter of tin from Penang. Then, of course, later part, we found that rubber was actually become a part of the industrial product. Then Penang was actually one of the major ports to export rubber to the rest of the world. In 1957, Malaysia got independence from the British, and then Penang maintained its entry port status. But in the 1970s, the entry port status was taken away from Penang. And that was actually the first round of restructuring economically for Penang. We transitioned from a trading post in trading to manufacturing. So that was in the 1970s when we started this specialized economic zone, and we started the manufacturing industry back then. And since the 1970s, we have never looked back. And until today, we are one of the major semiconductor manufacturing hub for the global E&E sector. And these are some of the multinational companies that have set up their facilities in Penang. Of course, the major one are maybe from the Western world, the Americans, the Europeans. Then, of course, you have the Japanese, the Taiwanese. It's an assortment of investor into Penang. And this speak volumes about Penang being a multicultural and multinational hub to do business with the rest of the world. So it is an assortment of companies that found Penang a good place for them to be located. And all these companies, when they are here, they are not actually move in and then move out the next few years. Many of these companies has been in Penang for the past 40, 50 years. If you look at, for example, take a very good example is Intel. Intel set up their first plant outside of the United States 2 years after they were incorporated in the United States in 1970. In 1972, they moved to Penang. They set up their first plant in Penang, and ever since they have been here. And ever since we as a state, Penang has actually grown together with Intel. Similarly, with Bosch, as well as other Japanese company, we have been together all these years since we started our industrialization process in 1970s. So I would like to share with you also some of the Penang investment as well as trade performance for the past few years. On the left-hand side, you can see that Penang has consistently been one of the top recipient of this direct investment. If you look at it, the blue one is the FDI. So you can see that in terms of FDI, Penang has been top, right? Although overall we might be second to Selangor state. The reason being that they have a higher domestic direct investment. But in terms of the blue bar that we can see, foreign direct investment, Penang is actually the top choice because of the environment that I shared with you just now that has attracted this foreign direct investment. On the right-hand side, you can see that the chart there, the major one, nearly 50% is about electronic and electrical products. Then, of course, 26% is machinery and equipment. And then, of course, another 15% is scientific as well as measuring equipment. But then you can also consider that the 26%, the 15%, and the 47% to a certain extent are interrelated because they are very much electronically based as well. So most of these scientific equipment, the machinery equipment, they are actually part of or related to the electronics and electrical industries that we have in Penang. So these are some of the companies that has decided to expand to Penang during this COVID period. These were companies that we talked to and who have actually set about their building of their facilities in Penang, even during this COVID period. So these companies, we started talking in 2019. And then when COVID started, work on the ground actually has not stopped. We have been working on the ground, facilitating investment, as well as this construction on the ground, so that you can see that SNN, for example, Smith and Nephew, we are actually expecting end of next year. We want to see that first shipment out of Penang. The building is nearly completed. Right? Then of course you have Bosch, it's a 2023, and then Lam is very aggressive. Even though during this pandemic period, they have actually just about to complete the construction of their facilities in Penang as well. Then of course the UCT also is expecting to be in production in 1 or 2 months' time. So as far as Penang is concerned, if you look at it, Penang export is about 32% of Malaysia's total in 2020. So actually, it is a very important export center for the Malaysian economy. Penang's trade surplus is 60% share to Malaysia total in 2020, and Penang E&E's export contribute about half of the Malaysia's total in 2014 to 2019. So in terms of especially on the E&E, right? Penang is a very important hub, not only for Malaysia but also for a global electronics supply chain. Lastly, Penang export in E&E and scientific instrument dominates the state total export, which made up about 80% of that total exports. So why Penang, right? The answer to that is why not Penang? Because we have so much in store for you, so that if you come to Penang, then of course you can expect the following. Some of this about pandemic, about how the measures that we take to contain the pandemic, but because of the special situation that we are in for the time being. But overall, what we do is that the most important thing is Penang is a very pro-business because we have been in business, be it regional or be it global, be it in trading, be it in manufacturing for the past 200 to 300 years. So we are very well connected to the world in terms of business. So the government is very business friendly, and we find that helping the investors to implement the project on the ground on time within budget is very, very important. So that is one of the specialty when people come to Malaysia, to Penang, to invest, because they can be rest assured that they can get the necessary support to implement their project on the ground. Then, of course, the rest are about actions that the state has taken in order to fight the pandemic for the time being. But overall, we have many, I would say that joint committee with the industry in order for us to work together with the industry for the industry. So what is so special about Penang? So first of all is a strategic location. We are at the center of ASEAN. ASEAN is one of the trading bloc that is, to me, I find that is very important because within these 10 member states country, you have a common tariff. So there are a lot of products that you can manufacture here, and then you can have a preferential tariff if you export it to this ASEAN market. And this ASEAN market is big, it's huge. The total population, total market of these 10 member states have about 600 odd million population. And then, of course, we have many natural resources, and the population are very young, and it is actually expanding. The middle class is expanding as well. So we expect that going forward, ASEAN as a marketplace, ASEAN as a manufacturing center is going to become more and more important. And Penang and as well as Malaysia is very lucky as well, because we are a green zone. We don't have a natural disaster here. We don't have typhoon. We don't have earthquake and the like. The reason is because the Peninsula Malaysia is shielded by the Sumatra island. Then, of course, our track record is, as I said, is not only stretching back 50 years, but actually stretching back all the way to the 18th century, when British started putting up Penang as a trading post for them. Then, of course, the all-rounded state initiative I've shared with you just now is actually we work very closely with the industry in order to help the industry. Then, of course, talent is very, very important to us. Malaysia is also very lucky because we have a population of 33 million people. So actually, we can tap our talent from this pool of 33 million Malaysians. So it is although we are not as in terms of population, not as big as Vietnam or Thailand, but we are much bigger compared with Singapore. For example, Singapore has only 5 million people, whereas we have a 33 million population. The other advantage that we have in Penang is actually the work, live, and play balance. It is an island resort. There are plenty of places you can go. You have the seaside, you have the hills, and you have the food. So it's a very easygoing an island that you can work, live, and play. But of course, the other one is about infrastructure. So over a period of time, over the past 200 years, Penang has been developed into not only a place for people to enjoy life, but we also have very high standard of education, educational institution, as well as medical care center. The reason is that because Penang is known for its medical tourism, not only for Malaysians, but also for the region, especially for the Indonesians and other member states of ASEAN. So this is a beautiful Penang. This is a bridge that we have. At the moment, we have 2 bridges crossing the strait into the peninsula, Malaysia. So it is infrastructure-wise, as I mentioned just now, the connectivity to the mainland is excellent. The connectivity to the outside world through its airport, as well as deep water port, as well as the road system and the rail system that we have. So the connectivity is just excellent for production, for your export, as well as for your import. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Casey, for the insightful sharing. You got me at the island and working and all that. Yeah, so everyone, I think those should be, good reasons for you to, investing into Penang. So if you have doubts and questions, please keep them coming at the Q&A function box at the bottom of the screen. So ladies and gentlemen, we will now move on to our next session, which will be the panel discussion pertaining to the Penang, a key pillar to Malaysia's trade topic. In this session, we will invite the panel experts from Smith and Nephew and IHS Markit to join Dato Sri Choon. Therefore, I would like to hand over to Ms. Jennifer Lopez, the CEO of British Malaysian Chamber of Commerce, who will moderate today's panel discussion. Jen, over to you.
Thank you, Rafiza. Hello, everyone. Very good afternoon. Firstly, thank you to Casey for that insightful briefing on Penang, sharing about Penang's successful track record and industry experience and the journey. I think very interestingly, thank you for highlighting the trade relationship between UK and Malaysia, which began in the 1700s. In fact, the banks such as the HSBC and the Standard Chartered, I think they set up in Penang first, if I'm not mistaken, in the 1800s, right? So more than 100 years, there's a long historic relation between Penang and UK. And we hope that, this is just a start to continue to strengthen that business relationship. So before we go into the panel session, I was wondering, Casey, there's some specific questions for you. Maybe these 2 questions, perhaps, you were sharing about, Penang. Would you like to take on these questions from our audience first before we go on into getting our, industry leaders to have, to have the real life experience of being in Penang sharing? So I think one interesting question that came up, which is very relevant, if you don't mind, I can ask you this question now.
Sure.
Yeah. Yes. What are the buying benefits for UK exports? I'm considering our stakeholders who are watching in from the UK. In terms of in Penang, what are the buying, export or import opportunities are there for UK exporters in Penang or around the surrounding states? I think more likely you like to take it from the angle of Penang. And we all know that Penang has an all-rounded state initiatives in terms of smart and green initiatives, digitalization and infrastructure. What will be, you see the opportunities for UK businesses or exporters? Or even finding the partnerships?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Jennifer. If you look at it, Penang's, in order to do business, is trading from both sides. So if you look at Penang, then of course you are looking at what are the major business or economic activities in Penang. So I've shared with you that we are one of the major manufacturing hub for the global semiconductor. So if you are in the semiconductor business, then of course you have plenty of opportunity to work together with us. It can be either way. That means to export to Penang and not to Penang, but actually to sell to Penang's manufacturing sector. And then at the same time, there's an opportunity for you to buy from them as well. But then, of course, it is not sometimes not strictly these components to be sold to the factories, but also when the factories are being built, actually there are plenty of opportunity for you to sell. For example, if we need a lot of electricity, for example, I mean for these new factories, then UK at one time is very known of this heavy industry, for example, transformer and the like. So this is actually very important to us as well. But actually, there are plenty of opportunity. You don't look at Penang as a Penang, but sometimes you look at Penang as an opportunity for you to reach out to ASEAN. As I shared with you, actually, we have the road link to southern Thailand. Actually, we are nearer to southern Thailand than southern Thailand to Bangkok, because Bangkok is further north, right? So with about 2 hours drive, you are actually down into southern Thailand as well already. Similarly, with half an hour flight, you are already on Sumatra. So there are plenty of opportunity. When this region grow, then you can be located in Penang in order to do business in this particular region. And if, of course, you look at others, for example, property investment, because we are also in this tourism. Just how I shared with you, medical tourism. For medical tourism, we need all the hospitals that we have in Penang. Of course, they need all the advanced equipment, the diagnostic equipment, etc., etc. So actually, if you look at it, there are plenty of opportunity for us to do business in Penang, in Malaysia, as well as in the region.
Okay, thank you, Casey. So I think that, as you said, you repeatedly said there are plenty of opportunities. We just need to dig down, drive down to see which are the areas overlooking the semiconductor business, the electricity, property investment, tourism. In details, there will be a lot of these solutions and services, right? So there is much discussion to be done in that area. So so with that, we will move on. We will keep the questions for you. You have other questions, but keep it for others. Let's pass the mics to our other panelists. So moving on to the panel session, joining us today will be Mark Arthun, who is the Managing Director and Site Leader for Smith & Nephew. I think I'm right to say Smith & Nephew is one of Malaysia's largest investor in 2019-2020, because you have been profiled quite actively by our agencies as one of our largest investors coming into Malaysia. And we are also proud to have Smith & Nephew as a sterling member of the BMCC. Joining Mark today, welcome Mark. Joining Mark today will be Shaun Lee, the Penang Center of Excellence Site Leader and Global Order Management Director for IHS Markit. IHS Markit, a bit different from Smith & Nephew. You had your groundbreaking ceremony, I think, just before we all went into the pandemic, and later we will hear how you're progressing. In terms of IHS, you have been in Penang much longer, nearly 9 years. So we have two different types of stories to hear today, experience to hear. So now I would like to invite Mark first to give a brief introduction about Smith & Nephew and your operations. Then we'll follow with Shaun. So Mark, over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And thanks to the British Malaysian Chamber of Commerce and Invest Penang for hosting me today. I've got a couple of slides I'd like to share with you, so we'll go ahead and pull those up. So I'll wait a second. So we'll go to the next slide. So to get started, I think it's very helpful for everybody to understand and get a little bit of background into, first who we are. I think we are definitely a household name in the UK, but give a little bit of a company overview. talk a little bit about some of our learnings as we've gone and recently invested in Malaysia. And I'll talk about our investment in all the details shortly. And then what recommendations for not only medical device, but just manufacturers in general. So go ahead and start with the next slide. So we are, a little bit about Smith & Nephew. So we're a 165-year-old company. We founded in Hull. So we're Hull's own. And we are a medical device company, leading portfolio medical technology company that designs and makes technology that takes the limits off of living. So we have a slogan that we use, is called Life Unlimited. And we have a focus area in our medical devices on 3 global franchises: our sports medicine division and ENT, orthopedic reconstruction, and advanced wound management. Many folks in the UK know us for our wound management and those types of products, but majority of our business is actually in orthopedics. We have 18,000 people around the world. We serve over 100 different countries, and we're a FTSE 100 company. And our revenues were a little bit suppressed last year because of the pandemic, but we were at 4.6 billion in US dollars. So that's a little bit about us. And I want to talk a little bit about the project. So I'm going to transition to the next slide. So a little bit about this project. We are an orthopedics we needed to, as Smith & Nephew, expand some of our rapidly growing franchises in a greenfield endeavor. So it was a true capacity expansion, and our orthopedics footprint was becoming more and more limited. So we decided to build a greenfield manufacturing facility in Penang. And as we just discussed and what Jennifer just alluded to, this is a brand new endeavor for us. And we're going to be manufacturing surgical implants, which is our knee and hip replacement products that you see in the bottom left-hand side of the slide there. And this capacity expansion represents the first time we've expanded in Southeast Asia. As Dato Seri just described, there is a island and there's a mainland, and we are located on the mainland in what's called the Batu Kawan Industrial Park. So there's 2 main bridges, and we're just off of the second bridge. Our investments the facility we're investing in is 250,000 square feet. It's going to be over 100 million US dollars in total investment. We're going to have about 800 people over the course of the next few years. If you look at the location on the bottom right-hand side, we have a fairly large plot to accommodate our capacity expansion. And this is all a very greenfield facility. So there was nothing there before. It's all been prepared industrial park complex that was formerly a farm. So next slide. So if you look at the timeline, and honestly, the timeline of events, we started back in 2018 knowing that we needed to expand capacity. By 2019 November, we signed the deed and agreement to the land that you just saw on the page. In February of 2020, right before the pandemic hit, we did our groundbreaking ceremony. We knew that there was something happening out in the greater world, but we didn't know yet what we were to face. We started our construction immediately following the groundbreaking ceremony in March of 2020, and unfortunately, we were shut down for a couple of months due to the pandemic. We were able to restart. We were able to catch up quite a bit of time in our production schedule. And in March of 2021 is when we had what we consider significant completion. And that's when we actually can install a lot of our equipment and start our validation processes, which in our industry takes quite some time. This month, we're hoping to receive and finalize our building, and we're going to have a brand new, beautiful manufacturing facility in this industrial park, with our first products being delivered in Q3 of 2022. So you can see that in the right-hand side picture. Next slide, please. So oftentimes, as I've transitioned to Penang and Malaysia and talked to other industry leaders, we're often asked, why did we choose Penang? Why did Smith & Nephew choose Penang? And I think first you have to answer the question, why did we choose Malaysia first? And I think that the clear answer for us was threefold. First, it was the government support and incentives. As you can see, there's a lot of active engagement with the Malaysia Investment Development Authority and Invest Penang at the local level. And there's obviously subsidies and grants that allow us to choose Penang and as the growth strategy for our future. Its proximity to our Asia Pac and the ASEAN region that Dato Seri just mentioned is also very critical for us. And so having a location in this area is very critical to our success. The infrastructure is really optimal, and there's a proven history of foreign direct investment, not only in Malaysia, but in Penang. Now, why we chose Penang specifically really had to do with a couple of other key points, and a lot of it had to. We were told about the talent, the skilled workforce, and how that met our skilled workforce requirements, because many of those 800 employees that we're going to be hiring are going to be a higher skilled skill set than entry level employees would be, and it was the talent. And what I can say is that I've hired employees all over the world, and I've never seen such a concentration of talent that I have in Penang. It's been an amazing and incredible experience for me personally. Precision machining capability is really something that is necessary for our manufacturing operations. The support from Invest Penang and also industry groups like the British Malaysian Chamber of Commerce have really helped us settle in, get everything we need, and sort it out in an effective and efficient manner. And it's really a pro-business environment in that regard. We have a very strong, Penang is building a very strong local vendor base, and and it really helps us support our medical device capabilities locally as well. So those are all a lot of the reasons why we selected both Malaysia and Penang. And if I were to provide some words of wisdom and some recommendations for future investors, all of which are on this call today, I would say, I think that there's a key in really building relationships and understanding the local culture. And then in addition to that, leverage all of the existing government programs that are in place, such as MIDA, Invest Penang. Leverage the local supply chain as well. It's quite a mature supply chain. I think that there's a lot that can be gained from establishing yourself locally. Hire locals, hire them often and early. I think that oftentimes companies get this wrong by having too many expats coming in. I think that there's a lot of talent. They have a long history of transferring and expanding capacity in this region. So I'd say leverage that. Take time to hire the most talented employees. Make sure that you also sell Penang as that attractive in place. As someone who has moved to Penang recently, I've been able to enjoy the true island culture and the food and the history that Penang really represents. The medical device community is growing and growing at a very rapid pace. And I think that with that, comes a lot of opportunities for additional manufacturers. And then, if I were to say any advice to anybody at this point, if you're considering doing this at this point, I would say, please, spend some time here, get some established relationships, and make sure that there's a lot of key decision makers to help expedite the process. Because in our timeline, it was just a couple of years between our conception to when we actually are nearly complete with our facility. And in the future, I think that you can compress that quite significantly, because the Penang and this area is very used to rapid expansion of capacity. So anyway, I appreciate all of your time today. And if you have any questions, please just let me know. And thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for that encouraging words. You have actually strengthened the position and strengthened some of the things that we continue to advocate, putting Malaysia or even Penang as the preferred investment destination or destination for business. So now I would like to welcome Shaun to give his introduction and brief on your organization.
Hi, thank you very much, team. My name is Shaun, and I'm a true Penangite, which always proud and fond to be called Penang as home. Thank you for inviting me to this great panel discussion about investing in Penang. I think they have found the right person, simply because all my foreign colleagues or bosses that visited Penang will always ask me to consider being a tourist guide when I retire or during my free time. So, which I don't have the luxury for now, but maybe in future. Anyway, I've had a chance to visit your beautiful, great country in UK. Visited the great Wimbledon court and the Emirates Stadium. Though I'm not a Arsenal fan, but I managed a team in Bracknell, UK, and had a great relationship with the team till today. So I've worked with this firm for 9 years now, and previously I worked at Dell Technologies for close to 9 years as well. I have also worked in some local SMEs prior to that. So let me introduce you to our firm, which some of you might know or might not know. Aisha's Markit HQ is located in Roadmaker Street, London, right? So what do we do? It's a bit interesting. We are an information company. With expertise, next slide, please. Yeah, with expertise across the world's largest industries, we leverage technology and data science to provide the insights, software, and data to help our customers make more informed decisions, driving growth, performance, and efficiency. Okay, this shows the breadth of our product coverage across many industries, and I will share a little bit more in a layman's form on the depth of our product offering. So let's start off with a financial market. The Bank of England, the Fed, and all the central banks uses our PMI data, which is the Purchasing Managers Index, to make interest rate decisions. We provide data to bring transparency to financial markets, and this includes definitive pricing of many financial instruments such as government and corporate bonds, loans, and credit default swaps, as well as valuation of derivatives and private equity. For energy, well, we know where every oil well is in the world. We know who owns the oil well. We know how much oil has been extracted from the well, and we know how much oil can be extracted from it at different oil wells. We host the largest energy conference globally, which is called Seri, during which over 5,000 industry leaders discuss future of energy. And one of the hottest topics right now is on ESG, on climate sustainability. And we track more than 50 key performance indicators in alignment with and based on the Global Reporting Initiative, we call it G4 reporting guidelines. And in the automotive space, every major car maker relies upon our information to design cars, forecast demand, and run their business. And in the engineering and product design world, we provide NASA, a single source to engineering standards and related technical documents, and help solve their toughest engineering problems. And when we talk about maritime and trade, we are the sole appointed authority for assigning mandatory international maritime organizational ship and company numbers. We call it IMO, just like your car number plate. And we provide ship tracking solutions and detailed information on vessel characteristics, so you know where a ship is at any point of time and where it's going and what it's carrying. Lastly, for economic and country risk, we provide comprehensive and consistent economic forecasts and data to help our clients gain a clear understanding of business growth opportunities, industry performance, and market risk for 206 countries. And that's one of the great info we use ourselves to make our decision to set up an office in Penang. So this is a little bit about our clients, right? We have 50,000 business and government customers, which include 80% of the Fortune Global 500, 94 out of the 100 largest American corporates, 49 of the 50 world's leading banks, and 49 of the 50 largest global oil companies, and all 10 of the largest automotive companies in the world. So here comes the slide on all our UK potential partners that are interested in. Why IHS Markit chooses Penang? We started our operation by setting up a 24/7 customer care team and finance department. And I've personally built up the contact center from a regional-based support to a global support structure and became the first global leader managed right out from Penang. So Malaysia continues to practice strong employment regulations which are well-balanced, and Penang has been able to provide cost-competitive workforce with many areas of expertise, which later I'm going to share in the next slide. And we are also have decent low turnaround rates, which our firm is experiencing that as well. And our government has made it compulsory for a company to invest a fraction of the employment costs in our human resource development fund, and that has benefited our organization as we continue to upskill our people through continuous learning. In terms of IT infrastructure, Penang has been quick to hop into the digital bandwagon, and nothing is more important than having a strong IT backbone in the form of internet coverage, speed, as well as building a solid failover readiness facility. Economy has been stable with a variety of industry complementing each other in different times. And the tech-savvy Malaysians and the government policies has not shied away from focusing on high-tech investment and idea. So all this made up a great value proposition, which makes perfect business sense. Personally, within the company, since I became site leader, I have been pitching to our international stakeholders in considering to expand or shift their headcount over. And true enough, we were able to set up new departments in Penang during these 2 years, such as demand management, inside sales for agribusiness, energy, client support for our financial IPO products, as well as global sales operation team. All this within this pandemic period of time. So, so as you can see here, this is our Malaysia business model, right? It is way more than 35 over functions within this Malaysia, and Penang office has grown, and we have also another Kia office. And total, we have 700 employees in Malaysia right now. 532 is from Penang, right? And if you can see from the chart on top, since 2011, we have grown 6 times, right? And this also shows you we are poised to be a truly functional global business service hub, as it encompasses so many shared service functions, providing collaborative, value-add service to our global clients and colleagues. And we are able to transform this transactional business, into providing consultative, analytical, and business improvement type of service worldwide. And today, 1/5 of our workforce actually focus on research and analysis, right? And not forgetting, we are also focusing in growing our leadership team to expand their leadership presence, influence, and exposure to empower them to make global decisions. As Mark from Smith and Nephew shared about his experience on setting up the plant in recent days, it would be fitting for me to share how our firm in the global business service sector progressed through these years and continue to flourish. I'm sure you all will like to envision how your investment in Penang will turn out to be in years to come, right? So the first few boxes has been elaborated. I'm not going further on this. But I want to focus on the diverse culture, language capability, and the inclusive gender balance in our hiring, which is now 5 women to 4 men, as well as our support towards the firm's openness in the LGBTQ community, which I'm a proud APEC sponsor. And another box with the people icon shows you the ratio of our male people manager versus the female people manager. And it's actually not a dream, but we are already doing it. And the 4.4-star rating is a local independent company rating come job agency. It's called Job Street, similar to the global renowned Glassdoor. And this is our rating. It was quite decent rating in comparable to the likes of our Penang big industry players like Intel, Dell, Motorola, B. Brown, and so forth. And during these economic times, while many has been reducing their headcount as part of their cost-cutting measures, our firm has firmly believed in the potential and performance of our location and continue to expand our presence. And therefore, we are experiencing 11% of headcount addition year over year. Like I said earlier, our attrition continues to trend below 12%. Employees felt great working here, while we welcome fresh new bloods into the firm to provide us new ideas and equip us with new capability. And lastly, I'm pretty honored to lead a group of well-engaged employees in Penang, which has been showing the entire APEC region how engaged and happy they were for 6 consecutive surveys, which happens to be consistently better than the company's average engagement score. We always know that we won't be able to be where we are if there's no support from various state governments, federal government bodies, which has always been very supportive of our firm doing business here and make it easy, despite some of the political differences, to be fair on this. So kudos to them. On the other hand, we felt a sense of commitment within our Penang colleagues and leadership to bridge the gap between industry and academia. Hence, within the recent 3 years, right, we have been on an aggressive mode to link up with 7, 8 universities, private and also local government, and even signed 2 memorandum of understanding with them, where we provide products, share our expertise, and coach the next batch of future talents. And in turn, they provide us talent pipelines, professional courses, discount, and also industry sharing. We even have our APEC Chief Economist, Rajit Biswas, featured as their guest lecturer last year. We managed to hire as many as 45 early career colleagues into our firm within these 3 years, and they are doing amazingly well, right? And moving on to the job boards, this is the one that I've mentioned to you just now on the independent rating that truly is encouraging to see where we are now with a short span of 10 years, or I would say 9 years. Last picture always paints 1,000 words, right? So these are all the Penang pillar of initiative from our colleagues during this pandemic period of time. You can see generally people living in Penang are very caring human beings who constantly look back to give back to the society, not forgetting the police force as our frontliners, keeping us safe, the underprivileged that still needs the safety essential items like masks and food, and of course the global leader. As a global leader in information, we really relies heavily upon science, technology, engineering, and math, which we call it STEM education, and therefore we continue to contribute ourselves in any of the state government's initiative on STEM education, right? During this time, we also knew parents were one of the hardest hit group within the firm. And we could continue our focus on building strong family bonds by organizing virtual Bring Kids to Work. Lastly, we did not forget our multicultural, vibrant team members who celebrate all great festivity occasions together, virtually or physically previously. And I want to end this by saying Malaysia boleh, meaning Malaysia can. And our unique spirit is can do, and we truly honor what we say. Right. That's all for my pitch about my firm setting foot in Penang in particular. Next slide, please. And here is my email as well as my LinkedIn QR code to my profile. So you're free to connect with me anytime, and I'm more than happy to know you and show you our Penang hospitality. Thank you.
Thank you, Shaun. Firstly, congratulations on your great people and diversity initiatives and the recognitions that you have received. And thank you very much for sharing about your organization, your journey. So now we move on to our Q&A session. Is Casey on the, yes, I can see. Okay, so let's start up by, I know both Mark and Shaun, you already mentioned slightly about how we are managing during this pandemic, but more on the general side, right? For the three panelists today, your views on, how Malaysia is managing the current challenges, because there are market perceptions on, perceptions on current political and economic situations. And now we have gone into a strict MCO 3.0 and stricter SOPs. And I think yesterday I've seen news that Penang, some of parts of Penang are into EMCO. So perhaps, my question to you, what are your views on how Malaysia is doing despite the current challenges managing the pandemic? So maybe we will start with Casey first.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. Well, Penang is a state, and Malaysia is a federation. So there are a lot of things that has to be decided by the federal government, and the state government will always, of course, support the national program. So as far as the pandemic is concerned, the first thing is about vaccination. So the vaccine has to be purchased by the country. So it's more like government to government, and sometimes it's government to corporation. And after we have bought the vaccine, then of course we will distribute it to the states. So as far as the state government is concerned, and as far as the Invest Penang is concerned, what we are doing is that we are working with the people, be they the factories, the investors. We work together to see that when we come to implementing the vaccination program, the national vaccination program, then it can be done seamlessly on the ground. So that is the state, what should I say, the state part that we are going to play. So as far as the pandemic is concerned, we are part and parcel of the Federation of Malaysia.
Okay, let me continue a little bit of my 2 cents here. Probably touches a little bit more of an economics situation. I always think that, there's always two sides of the coin in every situation, right? And there are just so many, good reasons and positivity out there to look forward, minus some of the perception generated, which I find sometimes, it's too much, right? So what I can see from a manufacturing sector, it continues to be the catalyst for our market rebounding this year. Well, ICT is definitely a form of our digital transformation, which remains a very key growth driver, right? E-commerce is definitely one of the, the blue-eye boy right now, right? Growth productions also accounts to 70% of the global supply here in Malaysia, right? Logistic, telecommunication and all this during this time, you know, it's doing well. Wholesale, F&B and retail, I'm sure when things are getting better, it will benefit from the recovery and confidence, right? And renewable energy and sustainable investment has always been the key of Malaysia, but particularly in Penang, you know, a green state. So it's definitely gaining a lot of traction and attention. So I think there are so much more good things to look forward to. So I'm very hopeful. And like what Dato Seri Lee says, you know, there are already immunization comes on, and before our call, we've actually talked about it, right? We are very, very helpful because the immunization is actually kickstarting very, very quickly right now. So we should see the end of the light at the end of the tunnel very soon.
Mark, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think that throughout this entire pandemic, we have had actually after the initial, when there was a lockdown started in March, which we called MCO, Movement Control Order, here in Malaysia, and that was when a lot wasn't known. And at that point, things shut down almost completely, and our construction project was shut down for a little bit of a period of time. Now, since then, we've done everything we can to maintain our existing timelines and our schedules. And to me, the way, and I think that Dato Seri also highlighted this, it's a lot of the decision making and a lot of the processes are driven from the federal government, and it's just on us to comply. But throughout the entire construction process and throughout the ramp up of our new facility, we haven't had significant impacts. I think that it's been, I think that the advocacy groups such as the British Malaysian Chamber of Commerce, Invest Penang, all of these groups have helped with keeping a focus on allowing these investments to continue to help with serving the greater supply chain around the globe. We're an interconnected group of manufacturers all the way around the world, and when one supply somewhere gets disrupted, then it has rippling effects across all. And to also just kind of follow up on this, vaccination, there's been a bit of a shortage here in Malaysia, and access to vaccine hasn't been incredibly prevalent. And that's not due to the fact that anything other than just a global supply shortage of vaccinations, obviously. But what I will say is that I just got confirmation right before this call that we're going to be able to conduct mass vaccinations of some of our employees locally, which I think is a really good thing and a good progress towards finding a light at the end of the tunnel, as Shaun said, as it relates to this virus.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to our panelists. I think we've spoken we know that Invest Penang is there to support the investors in Penang, and we've heard it from our two panel speakers who are shared their own experience and said how important is it to work with the government agencies especially during these challenging times. So I want to take, we're actually running out of time. We have a number of questions. Unfortunately, we cannot address all these questions. And I hope that Casey and the team at Invest Penang can, address some of these questions separately, because most of these questions are addressed to Invest Penang directly. But I think, okay, thank you. So I think one question apart from, the pandemic itself, and it was a first question that was brought up when you were speaking, Casey. It is about Penang's position and how has Penang benefited from the US-China trade war. Has there been, in your observation, findings, has there been an increase of FDIs of relocating from China to Penang? And what is the perception you see?
I think we do not wish to benefit from other people's miseries. So I hope that there will not be a trade war between the Chinese and the Americans. So that is number one. Number two is that we have been supporting the Chinese as well as the Americans all these years. And we find that, and hopefully that from the technology as well as a manufacturing perspective, we hope that we can become a bridge between the two superpowers. So when the Chinese, when they need anything, we welcome them to come to Penang to look at our supply chain to see that in what way we can help out. And similarly with the Americans, they look at the Penang, for example, Intel, and all these well-known companies that are in Penang. So of course, we are working together with them as well. So overall, I would say that short term, maybe there will be a little bit of a spillover because everyone is not very sure how are they going to behave business-wise. So there could be a little bit of a knee-jerk sort of a relocation of facilities, maybe business out of China or moving back to America. But overall, I think the intrinsic value of Penang has always been the people that we have and the way that we conduct business in Penang that will actually see us through irrespective of this trade war. So I think we would like to anchor on that rather than the knee-jerk reaction of businesses, but we would like to go long-term to leverage on our advantages, such as the in-depth understanding of doing international business, and at the same time to see that how best we can help the superpowers to ensure that this trade as well as manufacturing will not be disrupted.
Thank you. We have come to we have passed the 5 p.m. mark, which is the end of the webinar. But before I hand over to Fee, I would just like to, I come back to you, Casey, for your final words, but to go to Mark and Shaun, your final words for the audience.
Come to Penang.
Okay.
I'll be really quick as well, but I'll just say, if you're hesitating or even considering it, just do it, right? And I think that what I will suggest is that, and what I will offer up is that the pace of the ability to, build a new facility or whatever it is that you're trying to expand in Penang, you can do it and do it very, very quickly. So coming from someone who just went through this, I highly recommend it.
Thank you. Shaun?
Yeah, for me as a local Penanger who has worked in 3 different types of, in MNC, semicon, which is now in information, analytics firm in, based in UK, as well as in the local SME. I can tell you that, the Penang people or the community that is working in Penang has the right set of knowledge, exposure internationally and also locally to be able to cater to whatever needs that is coming along here or any new investment, and we welcome you with our open arms. Thank you.
Thank you, Shaun. Casey, is there anything apart from you say come to Penang, anything else you'd like to say before I hand over?
No, I think I always say that as a friend, I always share the best part of my secret. So my secret is actually Penang is a gem. It is a place that people can work, live and play. So please come here, whatever your objective, whether you want to invest or whether you want to have a good holiday, etc. Please, it's a good place. You won't regret it.
Thank you. I look forward to coming to Penang again too. When we can travel interstate very much and coming to meet you all in person. So with that, thank you so much to all our speakers for this very insightful session. On behalf of the BMCC, I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Invest Penang team led by Dato Lu, and to inviting Dato Sri Lee Choon to come and speak, and also for introducing to IHS Markit. And Mark, thank you again for coming. So with that, I pass the floor back to Fee.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you. So that's it, guys. If you're looking into investing into Penang, you have Invest Penang to go to. If you're looking into investing into Malaysia, you come to the chamber. This is where we shed some lights and connect you to the right people. So thank you, our panelists, Mark and Shaun, our moderator, Jen, and our collaborative partner, Invest Penang, Casey, for joining us today and give us a comprehensive and insightful session. It definitely broadened our view of Penang's future investment opportunities, especially for investors that are eyeing to invest in this particular region. So thank you, everyone. Take care and have a great week. Take care.
Thank you, Visa.
Stay
Thank you,
safe.
Visa.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.